Alexander Volkanovski just defended his belt for the 5th time in the featherweight division, and he's eyeing that Islam Makhachev rematch. There are some potential risks of moving up to fight Islam in the span of 3 months because Volkanovski has came out in the media and said himself that he needs surgery. And not only does he need surgery, guys, remember, he's going to need to bulk up a weight class again. Is 3 months off enough time to put on the quality muscle mass needed to compete with Islam Makhachev, especially when you need to be lifting a little bit of weight to put that size on? Well, is it going to be so easy to do all that strength and conditioning after a surgery? It's a little bit concerning.
I'm not getting any younger. The body's feeling it, but I want to take advantage of it. That's why even though I'm going to get surgery, even though I'm going to be injured, I need to get back in there because I don't know how long I'm going to be able to stay on top. I go, yeah, I'm passionate. Yeah, I'm experienced. I'm in my peak. How long is that going to last? So let's get to work. Let's get 2 of these bad boys.
But there are a couple other potential matchups, and I'm talking about Ilia Topuria and Aljamain Sterling, who I don't really view as all that exciting. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I really want to see those matchups. No, I want to see the Islam Makhachev 2 rematch, okay? But Topuria is still dangerous. Has he earned a title shot? No, he hasn't, and I'll get to that later. And Aljamain Sterling is still probably not all that much of a threat, but I think we might be able to get hyped for it if that's the only fight that could possibly happen this year for Volkanovski. So let's just get right into it. The Islam Makhachev rematch. Guys, if you have been tuning into the media this week, then you've probably heard some rumblings about Charles Oliveira saying that he doesn't want to fight Islam Makhachev in Abu Dhabi because he's injured. The issue is, he's been saying that he'd be ready for November and early November.
Would he be willing to fight in Abu Dhabi again? Because it looks like they want to put Islam on that card.
Eu só preciso de tempo. Se for novembro, dezembro, com certeza eu luto em qualquer lugar.
So I can fight anywhere. I prove already. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm just awaiting. Just giving me the right time to prepare myself. That's all I ask. You know what I mean? Like in November or December, I'll be ready.
It's just kind of weird to me that he has an expiration date and like knows exactly when his injury is going to be healed up by. So you're telling me that you're going to be ready for the first week of November, but not the last week of October? It sounds to me, and you know, with all due respect to Charles Oliveira, I don't think he wants that smoke in Abu Dhabi, guys. And it's okay. Maybe he doesn't want that weight on his shoulders. And he doesn't have to go into Islam's backyard again and again and again. I believe that even if he were to sit out and wait for a title shot because he's just destroyed Beneil Dariush, and if you look at his past 14 fights, he's only lost 1 of them, and that's to Islam, he could slide right back in there after taking a good amount of time off. So if it's not Charles Oliveira, the only other alternative for Islam on that Abu Dhabi card would be Dustin and Justin Gaethje. And I believe that those men are probably going to go to a war and they're going to injure themselves. And I can't see that being finished early. So I doubt that those men are going to be willing to make a quick turnaround, especially when Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje are known for having long layoffs. When's the last time Dustin Poirier has made a 3-month turnaround? I don't see that happening, which means that Volkanovski and Islam Makhachev is probably the likely matchup for Islam in Abu Dhabi. And so let's just start talking about that right now. The first thing that worries me is the bulk. Volkanovski is going to need to bulk back up to 155 pounds. And the last time he fought Islam, he took 6.5 months off to get bigger. Now, yes, he was willing to step in as a short notice opponent on UFC 280 if Charles were to pull out, but he didn't. So we didn't really know what that version of Volkanovski would have looked like. And I also believe that he had like a broken hand at the time as well. Now we know that Volkanovski is someone that is willing to fight through an injury. And if there's anyone that is going to be skilled enough to make it work, it's probably him, but it's still a bit of a cause for concern. You would like to think that if you're going to go in there against the biggest lightweight, you're going to need all the time you could get. And on top of that, is the UFC going to allow Volkanovski to bounce from the featherweight division to lightweight and then come back down and remain a champion if he loses? I don't think so. The UFC doesn't want someone holding up the division. Now, to be fair, is the division really held up? I mean, Volkanovski's kind of cleared it out from contenders. The only other guy that's left that's coming off of a win is Ilia Topuria, but he just beat Josh Emmett, who I think we could sit here and say now he's not really the best litmus test for us to sit here and say that, okay, Ilia is ready for a title shot because he just beat an old man Josh Emmett coming off of a devastating loss to Yair Rodriguez, with the way that Volk beat Yair, who was coming off of a win over Josh Emmett. So as far as I'm concerned, he wouldn't really be holding up the division. But we know that the UFC doesn't like to do a double champ fight more than once, all right? I don't think they've ever done it a few times for a single guy. They might make an exception for Izzy, but that's because Izzy hasn't fought for a double champ status fight since Jan Blachowicz, all right? And that was years ago. So he's got a little bit more of an allowance to get that opportunity again, whereas Volk fought Islam this year. So I think Volk would probably have to relinquish his belt. Now, if he were to lose, he could always go back down to featherweight and get the belt again. But I don't know, man. The fact that he would only have 3 months to bulk up, that's not great. And it's not just the bulk. It's not just packing on mass and packing on weight by eating a lot of food. How is this man going to be training? How is his strength and conditioning going to be if he's coming off of an arm surgery? I mean, how long is it going to take this man to recover from a surgery to begin with? You're telling me that in the span of 3 months, Volkanovski can go under the knife and just get right back in the gym? I don't know about that. Unless he has an appointment today in Australia with his doctor or his surgeon, I don't buy it. Unless he's on some super secret sauce from Paulo Costa himself, bro. I don't think that's possible. Now, to be fair, Volk did say that he's going to be right back in the gym this week. So maybe his arm isn't that big of an issue, but he's saying surgery, right? And that's never a good sign if you're also looking to fight 3 months later. So there are some things that are a little bit concerning about the Islam rematch because I don't know if it's actually going to happen. And the reason why it's alarming is because if that's not going to happen, and if Charles isn't going to get a mega payday to show up in Abu Dhabi, and if Dustin and Justin Gaethje aren't ready, then who the heck is going to main event with Islam Makhachev in Abu Dhabi? There really aren't any other guys. We'll definitely see, but another matchup that Volk could have if he's not going to be ready for Abu Dhabi would be Ilia Topuria. Now, as I mentioned, Ilia Topuria is coming off of a win over Josh Emmett. We know that Josh Emmett before that got beat to a pulp by Yair Rodriguez, who was just destroyed by Volkanovski. Now, yes, we can't just sit here and do MMA math because we know that Ilia Topuria is a very different stylistic matchup. This guy can offensively grapple. He's built similarly to Volk. That will present problems in and of itself. We've seen Volkanovski get dropped by a guy like Chad Mendes, but to be fair, that was such a long time ago. So I'm not just going to sit here and say that Ilia Topuria would be able to do good work on Volkanovski just because a short Chad Mendes was. I don't know if that is enough. I think Volkanovski would probably just beat his ass as well. Yes, it would be an interesting buildup because we know that Ilia is going to talk some shit and we know that Ilia is dangerous and has a knockout chance. But I just feel like you got to build up your contenders a little bit more. And Volk wants to stay active, so maybe that's going to be his next fight. But if that's going to happen, we're probably going to see that in the winter or early next year. Because if Volkanovski's not going to fight Islam, I could see him taking a little bit of extra time off to heal up from a surgery. If it's not Ilia Topuria, it's probably going to be Aljamain Sterling. That's another guy that I want to bring up just because, yes, it's easy to sit here and say that Aljamain is a bit of a walk in the park. He's going to get destroyed because he's a guy that heavily relies on his grappling. And if he can't take Volkanovski down, which isn't very easy, how the heck is he supposed to beat Volkanovski, who's also an elite level striker, when Aljamain can't sit out at range behind his reach? Because of course, Volk's got some really long arms as well. It's hard to sell. It really is. But if Aljo goes out there and chokes Sean O'Malley out in the first round, his name is going to have more hype behind it than ever before. Even all the haters that have been discrediting him for a while, or guys that just don't really like him all that much, are going to have to admit that, you know what, he is a pretty solid champion. And to see him go out there and choke out a high-level striker like Sean O'Malley would still be pretty impressive. But Volk likes a good challenge. Will he really view Aljamain as a challenge? I'd like to think that if he's fighting anyone within one weight class removed from his, he's going to at least present some problems. You know, maybe he won't be as much of a physical force in the grappling as Islam Makhachev, but he might have a little bit more finesse and more speed with his transitions. And maybe he'll surprise some of us with his ability to land some good shots at range. I'm not saying that he beats Volk. I don't think it would be that hard of a fight for Volk, but I don't think he'd just get walked over and be an easier fight than Yair Rodriguez was, or be an easier fight than a guy like Brian Ortega was. I actually think that this might be a guy that's more skilled than Brian Ortega. And there's just something about Aljamain Sterling's style that doesn't lead us to believe that he's all that dangerous. But he's fighting in one of the best divisions in the UFC. There's no way that this guy could be a champ and not be extremely dangerous. I don't buy it. But those are the three matchups that we have in front of us. Volkanovski and Ilia Topuria, I will admit, that is probably the only matchup that I'd actually be super excited to see in the featherweight division, just because I know that Ilia Topuria is a dangerous man. Do I think he can beat Volk? No, I don't think he's ready. I think he's a little bit too flat-footed for Volk. I think he would just get pieced up and out-volumed and outsmarted as well. I want to see the Islam fight, guys. I want to see that. If Volkanovski doesn't have to get surgery, then I'll feel a lot better about his chances. But if he's going to go under and then he's going to have to bulk up and rush that process and then fight in Abu Dhabi in Islam's backyard, it's going to be a little bit worrisome. But I won't doubt him. And which one would you think is likely? Because I don't think Charles is going to be the man who's stepping up to fight in Abu Dhabi, guys. It's not looking like it. But let me know which fight you guys would like to see the most in the comments. Until next time.
It's summer, and that gives you no rhyme or reason to run around here looking like Sean O'Malley. And I understand, it's fun to fit through door cracks sometimes. But why not build the actual strength to just open the door? So if you're actually trying to pack on some mass, and if you're a beginner and you're looking like O'Malley, you could check out my novice lifting program. I've personally designed these programs to help you guys put on as much muscle as possible without hitting plateaus. So check it out, guys. If you're interested, use code MMA for 30% off. The link is in my description.